Yo, guys, what is up? Welcome back to the channel. Today, I'm going to go over a game series that for the longest time I hated. I'm going to have a lot of hot takes here, and I think everyone's going to probably agree with them. But I just completed God of War Ragnarok, and this game completely changed my outlook on this series. And I want to go over how all of that happened. So, I know video is not going to be out for a while for the Alphabet Platinum Challenge, but just finished the game and I wanted to get all these thoughts rattling my head down in the video before I move on to the next game. So make sure you like, comment, subscribe so you're up to date on the future videos, and let's just jump right into this. So like I said, I did not like this series for a very long time. I never played the original trilogy as a kid, but within the past couple years I ended up playing 1, 2, and 3, and I did not have a good experience going through them. And it's not that the games are old. I absolutely love PS2 games. Kingdom Hearts is my favorite all-time series. Jak and Daxter 1 is one of my top 5 games ever, and Ratchet and Clank is one of my top 5 series ever. So it's not oh, it's a PS2 game, I just don't like it. But I want to go down and break down each one and the problems I had with all of them. Starting with God of War 1, I will say this has by far and away the best story out of the original trilogy. The idea of Kratos wanting to save his army and basically selling his soul to the devil, aka Ares, to make that happen, and then Ares kind of turning on him and making him kill off his family, and him wanting revenge, that is a phenomenal story. The issue with God of War 1 is that it just aged so poorly. The gameplay just feels super dated playing it in like modern gaming. It just doesn't feel that great to play anymore. And this one recurring issue I have with a lot of the games is the lack of God boss fights. And in God of War 1, I think it gets a little bit of a pass because it's solely focused on Ares, and the other gods don't really play a role in it. So it's not so much of an issue with God of War 1, just in terms of the story progression. And God of War 1, surprisingly, was my favorite of the original trilogy. And I was kind of indifferent about it. I liked the story, gameplay wasn't super fun. I was just kind of eh. But going on to God of War 2, I think this is by far, far, far the worst game in the trilogy. And let me tell you why. I think the story is one of the most unrelatable stories in a game I've ever played. So, for those of you that need a refresher, the end of God of War 1, you kill Ares and become the God of War. And God of War 2 starts off with you basically just being an asshole. Kratos has all this power, and he's just kind of killing people just because he can. And Zeus punishes him for being an asshole and kind of strips away his power. And this man throws the biggest temper tantrum I have ever seen in my life. And that is the entire game, is him just throwing a temper tantrum. He's acting like an asshole, he gets punished, and then he wants revenge for being punished for acting like an asshole. And when I play games, I want to be able to relate to the story, relate to the character, pretend I'm in that moment. And I just couldn't do it with Kratos because of how much of an asshole he was. So I hated the story. The gameplay still feels dated. It's not that much better than God of War 1, so that's not even a plus. And there's basically no god fights. Again. So there's not really any positives that I ever had playing God of War 2. And then I played God of War 3. This has by far the best gameplay of the trilogy, obviously, because it is the newest one of all of them, so it makes sense. But the story, just as bad as God of War 2. It is just an extension of his temper tantrum. And this man is destroying cities, destroying basically all of Greece to get revenge on someone who punished him for something he 100% deserved to be punished for. And again, just I can't relate at all to Kratos. Like I said, the gameplay is the best out of the trilogy. And one thing that I actually enjoyed with God of War 3 was the god fights. They were all fantastic. I had so much fun going through and fighting all those gods, which is what I wanted to do when I originally booted up the trilogy to begin with. And honestly, I was making up my own story in my head playing this game and having a story of him wanting to get revenge or save the world or do something against these gods that wasn't him throwing a temper tantrum and then fighting those gods made it super enjoyable. But the story's still there, so I just didn't enjoy it. And then I went to God of War 2018, or maybe I started with 2018 and went back to the trilogy. I don't remember at this point. But 2018 is supposed to be this new Kratos with the sun, and I know everyone loved God of War 2018. I'm gonna have some hot takes here. I hated it. I thought the story was incredibly boring and uninspired. The idea of, oh, mom died, she wants us to bring up her ashes to a mountain, and that's it. I thought was just so boring. And I know it sets up the entire second game, and we'll get into Ragnarok. But as a standalone game, I just did not care playing the story in any capacity whatsoever. It was just like so low stakes. You guys could call me dumb, not being able to see the hidden meaning with all of it. And I just don't care. I want to play a game and be captivated by the story, not just like a giant fetch quest. And the combat in these new games, even with Ragnarok, that we'll get into that I loved, I just don't enjoy the combat that much. And that's more of a personal preference, not really a dig at the game. I prefer dodging in games like that. I know God of War is more about parrying, and I just don't really like the parry system in it. So I don't love the combat, but I don't have objectively negative things to say about it. What I will say is I don't like Kratos in this one either. He's more bearable than the original trilogy because he's not just a flamboyantly asshole guy running around, but he seems almost like a caricature of like a stoic person. There's not like much emotion. He just yells out boy the whole game. It just doesn't feel relatable still. You could tell that he kind of cares about Atreus and wants what's best for him, but doesn't really show it that much. So it just kind of comes across as not relatable. I just don't care that much about him still. And going to Atreus, he sucks in this game. He just whines and complains, and he's just a bratty kid, which makes sense because he's a kid in the game, but I don't want to have to listen to a baby cry the entire game just because they're a baby in a game. So everything involving him was just super annoying. I didn't enjoy it. And a recurring problem in these games is the god fights and the lack of god fights in this game. There's virtually none. You have the fight at the end with Balder, which honestly was my favorite part of the entire game. I thought that was like absolutely the highlight of this game, in an otherwise very like subpar, mediocre, mundane game. And then you also had the fight with Thor's kids, Modi and the other little one. And honestly, that fight also amazing. So the only two fights I enjoyed in the main story were the god fights. Every other fight was against the exact same ogre with a different color. I've never played a game that reused the same boss fight over and over and over again than this game. Which, on top of the boring story and what I thought was kind of boring combat gameplay, there's not even anything exciting with the bosses. There's not new gimmicks, it's the same thing with a different color. So, all those things, I had such an underwhelming experience with God of War 2018. I will say it's not all negative. The visuals in the game were absolutely amazing. The world they built looked super beautiful. And also the endgame content was surprisingly fun to go through. So I go and platinum every single game I play. And this game was actually kind of fun to platinum. I thought the Valkyries were pretty fun. The collectibles weren't awful. So I thought overall they were pretty solid. But in in terms of the game, I didn't enjoy it. So I played four of the games up to this point before Ragnarok. I wasn't going through the side games because I didn't enjoy the main games. I wasn't going to go start playing side games. And before you guys just go to the comments and start yelling about the trilogy, it's going to be a spoiler alert. In the Valhalla DLC, he hates who he was throughout that trilogy. He's ashamed of it. He hates himself for everything he did. So the current God of War, Kratos, hates the past version of him. So I am not alone in saying that I hate him, is not relatable, and is not fun to play. But let's go to God of War Ragnarok. So I did this game as part of my Alphabet Platinum Challenge, which I know game came out a while ago, but I just got to it. And let me tell you, my hopes. Every time I went into a God of War game, I had my hopes maybe a little too high, being that I didn't enjoy the one previously. But I thought maybe this will be the one that catches my attention. And right from the start, I absolutely loved this game. The story I thought was so much better than every other God of War story by an absolute landslide. The idea that you are now going to be fighting all these gods and kind of participating in Ragnarok was amazing. And the character just arcs of Atreus, of Freya, and most importantly, Kratos were phenomenal. Throughout the game, and honestly, the DLC, you see such a huge jump from Kratos being this I don't really give a shit about anything, I'm not going to talk, I'm just going to sit here, hold my dick. And you see him go through all these different emotions from everything he's gone through, become a loving father, an understanding father, actually communicating with Atreus, and then going to the DLC and reflecting on everything that he did in the past. It was such a pleasure to kind of go through all of that. And he finally felt like a relatable human being, which is kind of all you need, I think, in a game to get someone invested. Someone where you could kind of root for them, that you want to see succeed. Atreus became an actual enjoyable character. Like him in the first game, I hated, but this one, he's more mature. He is curious about what's going on, his past, his mom, him going off on his own. I actually love those parts. I know a lot of people don't enjoy them. Like when he goes off to Asgard, I really enjoyed it. I thought the gameplay was fantastic. The story, even without Kratos in it, was amazing. Seeing him want to appease his dad, but also go off on his own and try and help his team while still working with Odin, and all the doubt that creeps in with all of it was honestly amazing. Freya's character going from you just killed my son, I'm going to kill you, to becoming more understanding, to whatever, I'll work with you because I need you, to just talking with Kratos more and eventually seeing that it wasn't really his fault and he just did what he did to save you, and then becoming friends again. All in all, the story was absolutely amazing. And one of the problems I had with a lot of the other games, the lack of boss fights and diversity, this game knocked it out of the park with. You get to fight a whole bunch of these different gods. Like Heimdall is one of my favorite characters in the entire series. That boss fight was super fun. The Thor boss fight's super fun. The one at the end, when you fight Thor and you refuse to kill him, saying that it's for their kid's sake, and you finally see it click in Thor's head that we're not the bad guy and he's about to switch. Odin coming and killing him, and then us fighting Odin. It was absolutely fantastic. The world, pretty similar to 2018, they knocked it out of the park with. I will say I have one complaint with it, and this is more just because I go for the platinums. If you weren't going for the platinums, you probably wouldn't really care about this. The compass and the map itself, and you hit like the touchpad, I don't love. I actually really dislike them because you're not really able to mark specific spots if there's not a point of interest there. And you can't really zoom in for the most part to really map something out to get there. So it becomes a lot of like backtracking and like trying to get through a maze, especially Vanaheim. Fuck Vanaheim. That was awful to like actually complete. But in terms of just the base story before you get to end game stuff, I not only enjoyed my time going through it, but I was invested, which was the first time I felt even remotely interested in a story from God of War, maybe except God of War 1. In terms of the endgame content, it was alright. It didn't ruin the experience for me, but there were just a lot of collectibles, and with a subpar map, it made it a little tedious, but it didn't really ruin anything. I thought the fights were, for the most part, pretty solid with the Berserkers, Berserker King, Kana at the end. I don't really have a whole lot of negative things to say about it other than the map. They were pretty fun. Got some more lore, which is always good. But I want to go to the DLC, which I just recently finished like yesterday or 2 days ago. I thought that DLC was so fantastic. The gameplay itself is pretty fun. Like a lot of other roguelites, it gets a little stale once you become stronger and you kind of understand what to do, and it becomes pretty repetitive. So the gameplay, solid. I wouldn't say it's great, but it's solid. What I love about the DLC is the story and the lore during it. Getting to see Kratos sit there and reflect on everything that he's done wrong and really hate himself for the entire trilogy, I think really brought this series together for me. Because, like I said, I've hated the trilogy. I hated who Kratos was as a character. I hated him as a person. I hated everything about it. But seeing all of that kind of turn him into who he is right now made me appreciate those games more. Seeing him reflect through everything that he's done wrong in the past, hate himself for doing it, not want to be the new God of War because he doesn't think that he deserves it. He doesn't think he deserves really anything. And going through Valhalla and seeing everything that he did wrong and wanting to try and make things right and understand that all that stuff he did when he was asshole Kratos can turn him into someone who knows what not to do really turned the series around for me. And that's kind of when I went from just enjoying Ragnarok from kind of the base game as like a standalone game. I enjoy Ragnarok. I still don't enjoy the other ones. To seeing that whole character arc come full circle to actually enjoying the series now and being invested into kind of the past Kratos because it brought everything together to where he is now, accepting this new God of War position, taking his little throne because he has an understanding of his past. And that's, I think, pretty an important first step for me because, like I said, I went into every one of these games really wanting a fun experience. I love PS2 games. I love like a little beat 'em up, like just button mash, some good story. And every God of War game I went into, I thought I was going to get that, and I just never did. So it was an overall disappointing series for me. Now, I actually really enjoy the series, and it was strictly because of Ragnarok, which, to be honest, I didn't think was going to happen. I thought maybe I would enjoy it a little more than the others, but I finished the game and it would be over with. I didn't think my entire viewpoint of the series would switch just because of this game. And I love talking with people about my viewpoints on God of War because a lot of people, I would say majority, like vast majority of people love this series who play it. And when I tell them about all my complaints with it, a lot of people don't really have any counter arguments with it. They're kind of like, yeah, no, that's true. And they just still kind of like it. So I'm curious to hear in the comments what you guys think of all the games and whether you think I'm an idiot for thinking any of these things, whether you agree and still like it, whether you have some more points to add, or maybe you could add some points to maybe make me reconsider the series as a whole. But thank you guys for your time. Again, let me know in the comments your thoughts on it. Make sure you like and subscribe to the channel. And I'll see you guys in the next video. See ya.